Hello, this is Daniel from soundheadquarters.com. In today's video, we are building these backlit acoustic panels. I'm going to show you how to build them step by step and how to make the French cleat so that we have an air gap behind these panels, which will enhance the acoustics and also give us a place to mount the LED light strips. I'm going to show you how we managed all the cabling as well to make this a nice professional polished look. So let's get into this video. We are starting off with our 2x2x8 lumber. There's a little shot of it right there. And this is gonna make up the frames for our acoustic panels. So I'm cutting two lengths at 4 feet, and then I'm cutting two lengths at just over 27 inches. I do 27 and an eighth. And that is the wood that's gonna make up our frame. Those are our top and bottom pieces, or our sides and our tops. So I'm just gonna go ahead. We are doing 5 panels for this client. So I'm just getting all of my wood prepped there, and then we can begin screwing these panel frames together. So I am using 3-inch construction screws, and you can see I have a drill bit there. And I'm using the floor as a guide because I want my drills, all of my pre-drilled holes, to be closer to the rear side of the panel. So you can see I'm using the floor as a guide there to slide the drill and pre-drill my holes. Now the reason why we want these holes to be closer to the rear side of the panel is because we are going to router a 45-degree chamfered edge, which you can see right here on my router. So we want to make sure that that router bit does not come in contact with any of the screws. So you can see there that the front face of the panel is getting routered to give it that nice 45-degree edge, and our screws are on the rear side of the panel frame, which you can see right there. And that gives us that nice 45-degree chamfered look all the way around the panel. Now we're just gonna go ahead and sand off all of the edges just to make sure that there's no burrs or anything that's gonna stick into the fabric when we stretch the fabric around this frame to upholster these panels. So once the frames are sanded, we can go ahead and get our fabric on. I'm using a pneumatic stapler and 5/16 staples there. And I'm just gonna go ahead and get the rear fabric done first. And the rear fabric is gonna hold the insulation and make sure that none of that insulation is exposed to the air. So we can just go ahead and get that nailed on there. And I'm just using just a standard poly for the rear face. And for the front face, we're using, the client chose really nice wool-based fabric. Here's the acoustic insulation. It's called Rockwool Comfort Board 80. This is what I'm using here in the Toronto, Canada area. You may have other options depending on where you are in the world as well, but the same principles apply here. So we're putting in this insulation into the frame, and this insulation comes in 2x4 feet. So that is why we make the internal dimensions of our frame 2x4 feet. So I'm going ahead and upholstering the front fabric now. I'm making sure that I fold over my edges at all 4 corners, that I apply solid tension to make sure that that front face, as you can see right there, is free of any wrinkles, nice and flat, clean fabric surface there. So we went ahead and got all of our panels upholstered, and now we can begin building the French cleat. So this is just a piece of 3/4 inch plywood that I'm going to use to make my French cleat. You can see I have my table saw set on a 45-degree angle there. And basically what we're going to be doing is making 45-degree angled strips of the plywood. And those 45-degree angle strips are going to lock into each other. One side is going to mount on the wall, and one side is going to mount in reverse on the back of the panel. And then that will simply just lock into each other, and that will hold it onto the wall. So I'm cutting 1-foot sections that will get mounted onto the wall. And then I'm cutting, I believe, either 8 or 10-inch sections that will mount on the rear side of the panel. There you can see all of our French cleats built. And you can make them to whatever size you need them for your application. There's a little close-up shot of them. And I am just using a spacer. I'm using one of the French cleats as a spacer and just nailing them into the back of the panel. Now we want to give ourselves that 3/4 inch gap because we know that the rear side of this panel is going to get wrapped with the LED light strip. So we need somewhere for that light strip to wrap around the outside of the French cleats. That way the light can emanate all 360 degrees around the entire panel. So I'm just measuring out on my wall there just to get my gaps that are going to be between each panel. And with these French cleats, you have left to right adjustability. So of course we want to measure as close as we can, but we can always fine tune left to right the final position of the panels. So I'm using my laser level there just to make sure that all of my French cleats get mounted nice and consistently in the exact same height as each other around the room, and that they're perfectly level. And as you can see, it just simply goes on, just hangs right on the panel. And now we're ready to do our LEDs. So there you can see in the previous video the LED base traps that we built for this job, and we're going to be putting the same LEDs into the rear side of these panels. That way the client can have full control of all of the LEDs in his room. So we're using these Govee RGB IC light strips. They just connect to the app, and these are the little conduit cord covers that we're going to use to manage all of the cabling, just to make us have a nice finished professional look. And these come with little couplers and 90-degree angles, you can see right there. That way we can just have a nice cable management look. So this is the tape. This is called T-Rex tape. You can also use Gorilla tape or probably even a duct tape. I just want to have a very strong tape that's going to fit and stick to the rear side of this panel. And that is the outlet that we're going to be tapping into. So I got one of those 90-degree extension cables to run it down to the ground. So I'm applying this tape to the rear side of the panel because that LED light strip has self-adhesive tape on it, but it doesn't stick very well to the fabric because just the surface of the fabric doesn't have much to stick to that LED light strip. But if we put on this tape, that tape has a nice glossy rear side, which the LED light strip can adhere to really well. So that's why we're putting on that tape, and I'm just putting the excess down the center of the panel there. And there you can see the mock-up of the lighting there. And that's just with all the cables dangling. So we're gonna go ahead and manage all these cables. So what I'm doing is I'm just cutting a strip that's gonna get me down to the baseboard there. And I'm just making sure that I'm at a nice straight 90-degree angle to the floor. And then I'm gonna manage that cabling between the panels there. So I have my power running down from that outlet that's behind that first panel, and that's gonna service both of these outlets. You can see how I plugged it in all right there. And I'm just sticking on the power buttons there to the wall just to give us a nice professional, clean look. Have all the cables nicely managed, and that tied into the cables of the base trap as well, which you can see in the previous video on the channel. And there is the finished look of that side, and all of the colors change, of course. Any of the LED light colors, you can do different scenes, you can do like modes that fade. There's a whole lot of customization that can be done with the Govee app and with all these light strips. So now we're getting the other side wall completed as well. There's a little shot of the rear side of the panel with the LED light strips wrapped around. You can see why we made that gap for the French cleat top and bottom, so that it has somewhere to actually wrap all the way around the panel so that the light emanates 360 degrees. There's a shot of the finished cable management. We did the exact same thing there, just making sure that we have our conduit mounting right in the center of the panel and going straight down to the floor where the baseboards are. And that's just going to give us a nice professional look. And you can see how all that cable management has been taken care of, and all of the light controllers are at the bottom as well. And here's some beauty shots of the finished studio. In the previous videos on the channel, you can see that great big diffuser that we built, all of the base traps with the integrated lighting, these ceiling clouds right here. All of the elements on this job are now on the channel. These backlit acoustic panels were the last video to come out of this build. So enjoy these last few beauty shots of the studio. This is a really cool DJ rehearsal studio for this client here in the Toronto area. Turned out very beautiful, really happy with how this job came out, and really hope you guys enjoyed watching all of the elements of this build. If you haven't yet, please check them out on the channel, along with all the other videos we have. We have lots more videos of detailed upholstery for the acoustic panels, lots more videos on those built-in bass traps, the acoustic clouds, how to install everything. Basically, anything you see in this video, we have other videos for on the channel as well. So please like, share, subscribe, all of that great stuff. I really appreciate all of the support. We just crossed 500,000 total channel views. I'm super stoked. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is Daniel. Peace out.